Would you like a simple strategy for memorizing the hiragana? Well, if so, if you're a new student to Japanese or even just someone who is terrified by memorizing all of these crazy character sets, well, stick around because this may be the most important video that you'll ever see, and I guarantee that it's going to be time well spent. So this is a memory palace. Took me less than 5 minutes to build. The people who built this building must have taken a lot longer than 5 minutes, and certainly more than 5 minutes just on the apartment itself, but that's not really relevant here. What's relevant is how you can leverage the power of structured locations and create memory palace journeys. And so you'll see that there are a number that the visualized floor plan, so to speak, has numbers all over it, and then that these numbers are repeated in a top-down list. And the reason why this is because I create a linear journey, and that's a very, very important principle. You don't want to be crossing your own path, circling all over the place. You want to create your memory palace journey in such a way that you start at one point, and that point is a point where you won't trap yourself, and then you move outward or in a circular fashion that enables you to be able to go through without crossing your own path, so that you're not doing anything weird like crossing through walls or jumping off balconies. Those are things that cause you to use mental energy that could otherwise be directed at memorizing important information, like in this case the hiragana. So I walked through this and in my mind and drew it out, and then I made a top-down list. And so it's activating the visual centers of the mind and also the cognitive or the conceptual centers of the mind at the same time, which makes it very, very easy and rapid to build a memory palace that's going to work and that's going to have a longevity and lasting power simply by going through this. And again, it took about 5 minutes. And the staircase that I drew is not perfect, but it's just what I needed in order to understand exactly how I was going to use the staircase. So I just assign it once. So just to review this a little bit, it's drawn by hand based on a real location. The memory palace follows the magnetic memory method principles of not crossing one's own path, not trapping yourself, not doing fancy, goofy stuff like going through walls or whatever the case may be that you come up with. Just natural journeys, things that you can actually do. Then it's written in a top-down fashion, and even though everything was pretty well locked in, I want you to remain flexible enough to do revisions on the fly. So in the case of this, I had originally assigned a heater to be used as a station where one of the hiragana characters would be laid. However, that didn't quite work out, so I just eliminated it and added something else at the end. And you can go back and change that on your written record, your drawn record, but I didn't. I mean, I've got a lot of experience using memory palaces, so it wasn't really necessary. But if it was a super complicated 200 station memory palace or more, then I may go back and change that record, because there is a benefit to referring to it, especially if you go to the next level, which is to create an Excel file version. But Excel files are cool because you can just insert fields. But the problem with Excel files is that you're not using your hands in quite the same way, and there's a real relationship between drawing and pencils and stuff like that. And really, there's an old phrase that the hand builds the mind, and this is really true. And I don't think the same effect happens from using Excel files, although Excel files are incredibly useful and they access different parts of the brain. But still, I recommend that you go through these steps. And if you're interested in why the research into the hand building the brain, one book to check out is 59 Seconds by Richard Weissman. I love this book. I recommend it all the time, and it has some of the scientific evidence that we won't get into at the moment about the relationship between what we write with our hands and how it affects our brains and our minds and even our moods. So these are really, really important principles for building a memory palace. Now let's look at this. This is on the corner, one of the corners of the balconies. And this is a guy named Ezra Pound. You may have heard about him. His poetry, I used him as a bridging figure. He's going to follow along this journey that you've seen. He's almost at every single station. Not everyone, because it just didn't come to my mind that there wasn't a way to incorporate him that came naturally, and I didn't want to force it. But each and every opportunity that he came naturally to mind he was a bridging figure. So it reduces the cognitive load on the mind, because you know that this character is involved and he's easy to incorporate, or whatever character you're using. It could be Al Pacino, it could be your favorite singer, it could be a family member, although you don't want to necessarily, have your family member symbolically nailed on a cross like I did with Ezra Pound. But you might, because the crazier it is, the easier this stuff is to bring to your mind exactly what you're trying to recall very, very, very quickly. So in any case, bridging figures, they're really, really important and useful, and they reduce cognitive load, which means that you can memorize more quickly and recall it much more effectively and easily. So this is A in the Japanese hiragana, and he is in this pose. I was thinking of the famous Soundgarden song that sold millions of records, Jesus Christ pose, and this fish symbol, which you often see on the bumpers of cars, is attacking his leg, and that gives this cross sort of symbol and this loop-de-loop symbol that makes up the Japanese hiragana symbol for A. And so the principle that you really want to pay attention to here is that the image is recreating the shape. It can be decoded to give the shape of the character, and the action makes it possible to get the sound. So you're doing both at one shot. You're getting the image and the sound, and this is an incredibly powerful way of recalling information using mnemonics, using mnemonic associative imagery and memory palaces. So let's look at another example. Now we have Ezra Pound in the next position, so we followed him from one place to the other. We don't need to come up with any new image as such. We just need to have Ezra Pound interacting with something new, or the bridging figure that you use interacting with something new in order to have another interaction that recreates in our mind another character and another sound. So Ezra Pound with two eels in his mouth squirming. One is long and upside down, and the other is short, and they're squealing ee. So it's the same principle. The action is creating the shape of the action is creating the symbol, making it possible to recall the symbol, and the action is making it possible to recall the sound. And this is very, very powerful and very quick. This was literally in 20 seconds or less. A final example for this video, this is Ezra Pound leaning on a stick. And this is not such a dynamic example, but it's still a really good one, and it just gets the point across. See what the symbol looks like, know how it sounds. And the more you can do this, the easier it goes. And the more you practice this, the better it gets. And you want to see this in real detail and color and vibrancy and large, and make the action exaggerated. And you just can apply this to the whole shebang. So you can do this for all the hiragana. You can do it to include the diacritical marks just by adding new stations to the memory palace. And then you can do a second pass, and there's not a one-to-one correspondence in every single instance, but you can do another pass and include the katakana later. And then the most exciting part is you can extend this same technique to the kanji. Now it's a little bit more elaborate, but the same principles apply. So, one thing you can do is create a memory palace, or 2 or 3 or 4. 4 actually is nice, because then you could have 4 with 25 stations, and you could get 200 radicals. And just having 200 radicals will open your world very, very quickly, and it's pretty simple to do. I mean, if you really dedicate yourself and create enough memory palaces and just work on this every day, you could have inside of a month, if not sooner, those 200 radicals, and it'll really open your world. So do consider using this methodology and this technique, and it's really just as simple as having a well-constructed memory palace, a series of well-constructed memory palaces, because one will never cut it. And getting your imagery correct, making sure that you're using images, especially with a bridging figure if you can come up with one, so that the image is recalling how the character looks and its sound at the same time. You don't want to divide those two things. So that's very, very important, and that you're able to follow the journey, and that you follow the journey through several times in order to get it into long-term memory, because you're basically hacking the forgetting curve if you repeat it. So I myself do it like 10 times the first day, and 5 the next, and 3 the next, or often just 10 times for a day for a week and really make sure that this stuff is in long-term memory. And there's other things that you can go into that will make sure that it gets into long-term memory even quicker. So if this video helped you, then you're really going to love how to learn and memorize the vocabulary of any language. And this is a video course that goes into detail about everything there is to know about building memory palaces, about using recall rehearsal to get the information into long-term memory very, very quickly, and just memorizing any word, any character set, and it gives you ideas about grammar. There's 800 plus pages of manual. There's dozens of questions answered. The video course has a members area for discussion. There are many updates, additional material coming in all the time, but most importantly, it takes you by the hand through the entire process of creating a Memory Palace network that enables you to rapidly acquire massive amounts of vocabulary once that you have the character sets down. And you can apply it to any language. It applies literally to any language, although some languages require a few additional steps than others, but we talk about that. And you can just take what you've learned. For many people that are watching this, it'll already be more than enough to make massive strides. But if you want me to take you intimately into the art and practice and the craft of using memory techniques to memorize vocabulary en masse, this course is there for you. So if you're interested, you can use coupon code Hiragana, and you can simply click the link in the video description below to have that code applied immediately to your one-time investment in this special course on vocabulary memorization. And there's a very, very powerful guarantee that comes with this course. You can try how to learn and memorize the vocabulary of any language for 30 days, and if it's not something for you, just simply refund the course. It's not for everyone. Some people prefer index cards, they prefer spaced repetition software, but I know many people, I've heard from hundreds of people who are grateful for this alternative to that, because even though rote learning can be effective, the majority of people I hear from find it dreadfully boring. I'm a bit of I'm prone to exaggerating things, which is one of the reasons why I've been so successful with memory techniques, but I don't feel it's too much of an exaggeration to say that index cards and spaced repetition software are kind of like the blunt force hammer of language learning, when you could be using your mind, your imagination, to stand in place of these characterless, featureless index cards and forcing them in front of your eyes when you could just go inside your mind. And so you can try this technique out for 30 days, and you know what? You can download all the files. Udemy, where the course is hosted, it's kind of like the Amazon of video courses. Millions of people use it, and it's really good. I wouldn't have my courses there if it wasn't. But I don't have to do this using Udemy, but I've made it so that you can download all the materials. And if it's not something for you, you can keep the files. People, when I give this guarantee, they say, oh man, people are going to rip you off. And you know what? That might happen sometimes. But the truth of the matter is I prefer for you to come in, get what you need, and make strides with learning vocabulary than to not try this at all, because it's just an amazing technique, and I just know that it's going to help you if you give it a serious try. You don't even have to give it a serious try. You just have to give it a try with fun, a spirit of experimentation, and just get in there. So this is my guarantee. I know you're going to love it. I know you're going to benefit from it. And it's just an amazing, amazing course. There's so many students in it. They leave the most amazing discussion posts and really thought-provoking, mind-stretching discussions have come out of this. Plus, there's all these pages and pages that I've written about memory techniques that come with the course free as a bonus. There's bonus interviews, constant little things I'm sending out every month to engage you, to keep you interested, to coach you literally through using the technique. Every single angle is covered in this course, and again, it's all guaranteed. So why get started now? Well, there's some very, very real reasons that time is ticking. Every day that you aren't using advanced memory skills to memorize foreign language vocabulary, you're missing out not just on massive boosts in fluency as you study the language, which in this case is Japanese, but you're missing out on memory improvement that leads to better thinking, decision making, and higher levels of professionalism. So whatever job you're in, or as a student, whatever courses you're taking, whatever field you're studying, you're really, really missing out on amazing mental capacity building exercises, techniques that you can use to really capitalize on your investment in what you're doing in school or in your career. The time and the energy and the money that you're spending is really, really boosted by having an improved memory. You also, it's a little bit egotistical, but it's true. You can fascinate others with your skills, and you can also teach them, which creates goodwill with them and makes the world a better place when you know the most elegant and effective ways to create memory palaces to memorize anything that you want very, very quickly. And the benefits of memorizing material is that you can interpret it and reflect on it later. So, for example, when you learn a phrase and you hold that phrase in your mind, and you can see the characters, the hiragana, the katakana, and the kanji, and you can start building connections between them, and you can see how the language is put together because you have it in your mind. You don't have to always look at a book and that sort of stuff. You can just walk around and reflect on things, and it's the most amazing result that comes from approaching language learning in this particular way, because you're paying attention to the language in just from a totally different direction, and it's just fascinating the effects that are going to happen for you. And then of course you have major boosts towards fluency, and I'm assuming that you're going to use the memory technique in combination with reading, writing, listening, and speaking in regular doses in order to compound all of this, in order to integrate everything, because that's the real secret of however that you're memorizing material through rote index cards or spaced repetition software. You've got to put that into the context of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. But the question really is how much are you going to be able to read, write, speak, and listen if you don't have material in your head? And unfortunately, one of the reasons why so many people never make strides in language learning is because of the memorization of character sets like the hiragana, memorization of vocabulary, because you can understand grammar relatively simply. It is not rocket science usually. I mean, there are some difficult parts of many grammar systems, but typically you can read a grammar book and have it down pat in about 2 weeks, the major stuff. But without enough words to run the engine of grammar, you're not going to get very far. That automobile of grammar is not going to get onto the highway of fluency without the gas of vocabulary. So that's why you're missing out when you can't memorize lots and lots of vocabulary in a structured, meaningful fashion that you design yourself based on universal principles that are taught in detail in how to learn and memorize the vocabulary of any foreign language. So to sum up, you can build memory palaces. You can build lots of them. You can build memory palaces that are easy, that are elegant, that are effective and fun. You can improve your income, you can become more professional, you can gain newfound respect from your friends and your colleagues, and you can learn that dream language so that you can travel, that you can read literature, you can watch operas, you can do all the things that knowing a second language, a third language does for you in terms of opening the doors of the world. And every day that you cannot remember the important information in your life with crystal clarity, you are daily missing out on life's most cherished pleasures, which in this case are fluency and the abilities that fluency creates. So I want to invite you to join this course today. The link with that coupon code, the special discount on your investment today, is included down below in the video description. And please send me a note when you've joined the course to say hello, and I have a special gift to send you just for trying this course out. So this is Anthony Metivier from magneticmemorymethod.com. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.